Monica here. Welcome to the Data Podcast for Nerds, where we get to talk to amazing professionals and ask them how they use data to basically solve the world's problems. Plus, we include some fun bits because we're all nerds here and we love to have fun. Today, we'll be highlighting some data-related careers that you might not have thought of before. Today, we have Jacq Riseling, who is a social media creator who works for Monte Carlo. Hey, Jacq, how are you? Thank you so much for joining the show.
Hi, Monica. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Awesome. I'm glad to have you here. Being a social media creator is probably the first very, very unique career that we've had on the show. So I'm very excited to get into the overlap of how you use data.
I am too. Yes. It's a fun job. It's fun.
I bet. I see all the stuff that you post, lots of memes. I wore my photosynthesis is fun sweater for you today.
Yes, I love it.
It was like the most like meme shirt that I had.
I love it. I love it. Oh, so good.
So we usually kick off the show because I love learning about people's origin stories. Comic books, nerds, I feel like it meshes well. So if you could let us know, what is your origin story and how you got to be where you are today in your career?
Sure. So I have a very unique origin story. I'm sure you hear that all the time, like from your other guests too. But I feel like not to brag, but I feel like mine kind of tops the, cuts the cake a bit. So I actually went to school for my undergrad for piano performance. I loved piano lessons. I loved being able to play music and perform for people. And I also liked teaching too. So my undergrad was mostly music, piano practice, no social media, really, like no social media much, no marketing at all. And it was just, I was in the practice room all the time. I didn't really start social media until probably my last year in undergrad, where we were expected to market our senior recital. And that's when I started kind of seriously seriously considering social media, because I loved it. I loved being able to make the graphics, being able to share it with people, posting on Facebook at the time. That was like the main social media platform that we were using. So I loved that. And then, and that was like just the beginning. And then I taught for a while. I also did nursing for a little bit. I was a certified nursing assistant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's a very unconventional background, and I'm getting to where I am at this point, like shortly. So when I stopped being a nursing assistant and I was teaching at a piano studio, I was in charge of our marketing efforts. Because again, I loved creating graphics. I love being able to post and share and talk with people on the internet, Facebook again at the time, and Instagram. And I really liked it because it was challenging a different part of my brain that piano wasn't challenging. And it was very personable. So when, tale as old as time, when the pandemic happened in 2020, our studio lost a lot of students. I mean, and rightfully so, because a lot of our interactions were in person. And we had some virtual students, but it just wasn't the same. And I took that as an opportunity to seriously pursue digital marketing, which, my understanding at the time with digital marketing was that it was everything. So newsletters, emails, YouTube, social media, everything. That definition's kind of changed now, but that's what I thought I wanted to do. And so I would stay up till like 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, studying. And then once I got done with studying and I felt like I was at a good pace, I became a freelancer. I became a freelancer web designer and marketing coordinator. And I did that for a couple of years. And it wasn't until June 2022, June 2022, I'm coming up on my 1 year soon, that I'm like, you know what? I want to specialize in digital marketing. I just want to do social media because as a consumer of social media, I'm always on it. And I had a deep appreciation for brands like Wendy's, McDonald's, who just made social media fun for companies and made it fun for people who were interacting with these brands. And I wanted to do that, but I didn't know how. And I had a mentor at the time who was helping me kind of spruce up my resume, my LinkedIn, and they had pointed me towards Monte Carlo. And I'm like, do I have the experience? Do I have, that imposter syndrome kicked in? Mm-hmm. I applied for it anyways. Loved the interviews. It was a great interviewing experience. My manager, Molly Borwick, is amazing. And that kind of solidified my desire to specialize in social media. And then it's been up ever since.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's an interesting origin story. It takes a bit to explain how I get there. But yeah, and one of my monikers is actually Jacq of all trades, is because of just how many careers I've had in a short span of time. So yeah.
That's so perfect. I love making fun little things out of your names. So you talk about specializing in social media, but how does that relate to when you work for a data company? You also have to specialize in something related to data in the data world, right?
Yes. Yeah. So for the surface level is, for me specifically, I am behind the brand voice, and I am in charge of organically reaching our community, primarily on LinkedIn and Twitter. We're delving into TikTok right now. Got to join that. Got to join that Gen Z somewhere, right? Got to make data observability cool.
Exactly.
But with data, I specifically work with learning about the product and where our product fits within the modern data stack and how it interacts with other companies, and what or who it serves, what problems does it solve for customers, and then taking that information, those data points, and then creating social media posts based off of that. And, even more so, there's other data points that I pull from, what do people say about data observability, data quality, data reliability, what's trending right now. And then we also, I also look at the very sticky data points, like how many likes, how many impressions, how many reposts, and so on and so forth. So that's how I use data, and that's how I work within data, is putting those all together and kind of making a nice, neat little ball that I just send out to our community and wait for responses.
What other outside data do you pull from? You mentioned that you look at what's trending now. What are those resources that you're looking at to see what's trending, for instance?
Oh, sure. So definitely LinkedIn. There's a lot of influencers that I follow. You're one of them. There's a lot of data influencers that are on LinkedIn who post really great content. And it's great because their communities are resonating with it. So I use those for inspiration. I also use Slack, various Slack communities, like the DBT community, Data Quality Camp community is another one with Chad Sanderson, and then also Reddit. Reddit is
so good. Gold.
It's so good, and it's a good way to keep the pulse of what's happening, especially in data engineering, which is our primary focus. Our primary community that we're trying to appeal to, and that community in particular for Reddit, it is so full of information and what matters to data engineers, whether they're a senior data engineer or they're a head of data, what memes make them laugh, because when they share the memes, it's oh, this is so good. I love it. And Yeah, so definitely Reddit for sure. Slack, Medium is another way. Medium, Substack, and then TikTok. TikTok is another place that I look at. I think Seattle Data Guy has a TikTok on there. He has a TikTok. Yep.
Okay. I did not know that. I'll have to go look at that one.
And Jacq Wilson also has a TikTok as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I follow him too. And I look at those and see, what they're posting about. And it's a challenge because a lot of those great influencers appeal to beginning data engineers, those who are just starting in their career, whereas we're more for like the seasoned data engineer. But, we can still educate them about the importance of data quality,
Yes.
So it's kind of a balance. But yeah, those are the sources of inspiration that I use for my content.
Yeah, that's a good point in that I also see that a lot of people cater towards the newbies, the people that are trying to enter the data field. I do that as well. But then it's also the other side of it with the seasoned professionals. You kind of not need to talk to them in the same way, but always talk about the fundamentals, because people, if you're in your career for so long, you kind of forget about the fundamentals and all of that, and you need to revisit those periodically to just keep up to date with things, especially with data, because things change so often.
Oh my gosh, yes. The amount of new tools that have popped out this year, and the new concepts and paradigms, data mesh, that is such a big paradigm that's been here for, from my understanding, and maybe dated, but a few years, but it hasn't really taken off until this year, and shortly at the later year, where companies are actually starting to use it in practice. So yeah, lots of new things that are popping up. So yeah, going back to the fundamentals is important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Speaking of data mesh, what's your favorite data buzzword?
Oh, okay. It's so hard because there's so many. I'm gonna have it's a tie. It's a tie between three. Data mesh for sure. Data contracts. Data contracts is a big one, mostly because of Chad and his advocacy efforts. But it's a relevant term, and it's still a highly debated topic. And then data products.
Yes,
even though it's not really a super buzzy word, but it brings back one of those fundamentals of you need to treat your data like a product, and this is how you can do it. This is why you need to treat data as a product, hold it as of high importance as other products that your business develops, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that one's the big one. And that one is all over the place. I've seen so many LinkedIn posts and blog posts and, just different articles posting about data products and just honing in on that. I mean, we do it ourselves with our content team, is we post so much about data products. And our field CTO, Shane Murray, he's, I guess, our expert, leading expert in data products.
I think that's one of those terms that kind of evolved, because back in my day, it was treat data as an asset.
Yes.
And then now it's treating data as a product, where it's sort of the same vibe, right?
And there's a different sort of air with it when you talk about it and when you hear people talking about it, right? Treating data as an asset, yes, that was, back then, but now it's all about products. What type of products can you develop? How can you approach data as a product? How can you prioritize it within your organization? How can you prove that data is a relevant existence and a profit-making existence, in the organization? And data as a product fits that.
Exactly. So we talked a little bit about how you use data in creating your social media content, but how would you use it to solve any problems that you're facing?
Sure. So I'll use a real life example. So on LinkedIn, the data points that I use are engagement rates. So how many impressions do we get versus actual engagements with the posts? And at one point in time, our engagement was not the best as I hoped it would be. And I couldn't figure out why. I'm posting memes, they're funny, people are liking them, posting about relevant content that's happening, is the modern data stack dead? Or, let's talk about data mesh, or, let's talk about data engineering and how it's evolved over time. And, all of those are working, but then it just wasn't performing as well as I would hoped. And I'm my biggest critic. So
we all are.
We all are. So for me, if it wasn't from the outside in, it's oh no, your posts are doing fine. And me, I'm no, they're not. They're not doing fine. You may think so, but they're actually not. So how I used data, well, I actually had to run experiments. I had to run something. There's a lot of experimenting in social media because the algorithms are changing every day. The platform and how we use LinkedIn, and I'm talking about LinkedIn specifically because that's our primary outlet for social. And, that platform is changing all the time. There's always updates that I get from LinkedIn news. And so I had to run an experiment. I had to figure out, one, where my definition of lack of engagement was coming from. Two, was it the actual content that we were posting? And three, was it the way that I actually just wrote the posts? Were they too long-winded? Were they too short? Were they too personable, and very on the cusp of Gen Z talk? Because we have a very mixed bag of generations in our community, but the majority of them I would say is probably Gen Z to Gen X, those three generations right there. And I used what I've learned from those, and all the data that I pulled from that it was the timing in which we posted. It was also the variety of media that we used, because I've used a lot of static images for posts, and it wasn't performing as well. So then we threw in some TikTok style videos in there, and our engagement has gone up. So that's how I've used data, through experimentation and just learning through it and seeing what works. And of course it could change tomorrow. So we're always experimenting.
Yes. Now, how do you run your experiments? Are they very formal experiments with documentation or just winging it?
It depends on which type of experiments we're doing. We're doing another one where we're seeing what our reach is when employees post, and they have what we do is called an employee advocacy program. And basically what that means is we enable our employees, and we're doing a select group right now, enable them to post about themselves as a person, because we're all people, right? And people love talking to people. They don't love talking to brands, right? It's, it's easier to talk to people. And we, that one is very formalized. That program and experiment is very formalized. And the other ones are what if people click more if the link is in the post itself, or if it's in comments? Where do people go? Do they go to the comments and click a link, or would they rather have it just in the post? And that one was a very informal one. We use UTM to keep track of where people are coming from when they come to our website. So I just stuck on some words that were relevant to me, posted it. And then, that one was a very informal one where it's just, I just wanted to see where people were clicking and where, and the results of that one was that they like the post more. So versus comments. So, just a little tidbit there from my findings. Of course, there's going to be other experts who say otherwise, but for my own personal findings, that's what I found.
I would think that with social media, you have to be a very creative person to, make those experiments flourish the most, right? So I wanted to segue into our fun bits. Yay! A little bit talking about what makes Jacq creative, or how do you be your most creative self?
See, okay. So once upon a time when I used to practice piano, I don't practice anymore because, I don't need to. I just play for fun. That was when I was most creative. But now where I get most of my creativity from is actually from conversations with my family and with my friends and, talking to them because they're not in data, but they know what's funny, right? Because everyone in data, yes, we're a bunch of data nerds. We love data. We appreciate it. But then we're also human, right? We have other aspects of our lives that is not revolved around data. We have other parts of our life. And so I tap into that through my friends, through my family, through my coworkers, through TikTok, through Instagram. And I draw inspiration to be creative from that. Like what my big thing is, what makes people laugh. And I love laughing. I love telling jokes and just making people laugh because it is such a good, like, healing feeling. So that's where I'm creative, is in conversations and just talking.
Yeah.
Which, believe it or not, I'm actually introverted. So so us talking right now is like the most at capacity. Put me in front of people and I'm like, unless I'm teaching something, if I'm having a one-on-one conversation, it's so much easier versus like presenting in front of a group.
I very much relate to that. I was going to mention, with you getting your inspiration with talking with other people, it's good to bounce your ideas off of others, because I can laugh at my own jokes all day long, but then once I tell it to somebody else, oftentimes they're just like, I don't get it.
It just goes over. And like, okay. And it's difficult because, again, it's our product, data observability is still a concept and a tool that's being learned about, and we're still educating people on like the relevance of it. So when you throw in people who are not even in data, like my family and my friends, and I try and make a meme and I ask their opinion, they're like, yeah, that's a funny picture, but I don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, well, that doesn't help me, So it's not that I have to, lower the educational part or lower and assume, lower intelligence for these posts. Really, it's all about the basics and keeping it as simple as possible and very straightforward. That's one of the things that I've learned in this role, is that, yes, you can have all of the terms and buzzwords in the world, but if you're not going to keep it simple so that people can just get the information right away, it's going to sink. No one's going to like the post. No one's going to like the picture. It's not going to work for them. And it all goes back again to us being human.
True.
Yeah.
Speaking of learning things, how do you learn new things?
Well, I actually just wrapped up my graduate degree. I got a master's in communications. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. With a focus in new media and marketing. So I love taking courses. And the reasoning behind me getting my master's was because, one, I always wanted a master's, and two, my undergrad was in piano performance. Nothing really, not saying that you need a degree to get into marketing and communications, but it helps. It all goes back to learning about like the fundamentals of communications and what what is effective marketing. And so for me, the way I always choose to learn is through courses. I'm also a big consumer of YouTube. I love YouTube. I put it on like when I'm cooking, put it on when I'm eating lunch. That's another big component of how I learn. And then also social media. Like, as you can see, I don't really take a break, but I have to like plan breaks from social media so I don't get, burnt out from it. But social media is also another place because there's people posting all sorts of things online. And perspectives that I wouldn't have thought of, because sometimes, and it's true for remote work, you get caught in a silo, you get caught in your own world. And so one of the ways that I escape that is through following people and looking at their social media and seeing what they do.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I learn.
Speaking of YouTube, YouTube Shorts are supposed to be all the new rage now. So maybe if TikTok's not working too well, you can try also the YouTube Shorts. That's what I've been doing.
Yeah, that's what we've been doing too. Like if it's like our educational ones, we did do YouTube Shorts. Like our meme-esque one, like my favorite is Pedro Pascal, because like he's just been all over the place. I love it.
He's everywhere.
He is, and I love it so much. And those type of short form videos, we save it for like TikTok and we save it for LinkedIn. But yeah, YouTube Shorts we've been doing. We have a wonderful content marketing manager, Tim Osborne, and he is such a savant at the video and editing. And so we've been really upping our YouTube game with him and his edits. So it's been great.
Nice.
Yeah. It's been great because then I can just focus on making sure I make the content pop. And he's like, all right, let's take it and make it even better. I'm like, rock on. Love it.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, do you have any other last words of encouragements or recommendations for the listeners?
Sure. So my big recommendation is to keep it simple. Really, that's just, don't overcomplicate things. Don't overthink it. I used to be a really bad overthinker. And now that I've been in this role, one of our values is ship and iterate. And basically what that is just get it out. Get it out of the door. Get it done. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just get it done. So yeah, if you're looking to go into content creation, or if you're looking to become an influencer, like in the data world, because we need more influencers too. I like seeing data influencers. Just do it. Don't think about it. Just do it. Like Nike, just do it. keep it simple and just do it. And then just learn over time what works and what doesn't work. But if you don't do it, then you're not ever going to do it.
I know. We say that a lot. I feel like there should be a global sponsorship.
Agreed.
Just do it.
Just do it. Don't think about it. Just do. Yes. Agreed.
If the listeners have any questions, where can they find or follow you?
Yeah, they can follow me on LinkedIn. I am on there all day, every day. As you know,
she is, folks.
I am on there every day. And it's, if it's not because I'm like, obsessed with it. It's just, I gotta be. It's how, because again, data changes so fast, and what could be hot today can just fizzle out tomorrow. So on LinkedIn, Jacq Riseling, and I have a little smiley face emoticon next to my name, so you can't miss it. So I'm on there.
Well, thank you again for coming and being on the show with us.
Thank you. Oh, it was so much fun. I was so excited for this.
I'm glad you had a fun time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And as always, folks, happy learning.